Talking about British immigration law, it is really control of entry. It should be called British immigration control. I say that because if you are white, you are allowed to come in because you are a member of European community. If you are white, you are bound to have an ancestor who was born in this country. Then you are free to enter and settle in this country. If you are not white, chances that you do not come from Europe, chances that none of your relatives were born in United Kingdom. Therefore, you are controlled by British immigration law. 10 years ago, I myself faced deportation. And I fought a campaign with support of lots of people from community, trade union, labor movement. And after 5 years, we won that campaign. And during that 5 years, a lot of us gained a lot of experience. We wanted to use that experience, not that we were fond of campaigning, but during the campaign we realized a large number of black people go through the same experience as we do. So we wanted to help other people who came across, who fell foul to British immigration control, to help them. That's how West Midland Anti-Deportation campaign was formed at the end of my campaign. And we have found it very useful tools. Over past 6-7 years, we have fought something like 20-30 campaigns. They vary from case to case, but we have won every campaign we fought. We have campaigns for women who have been subject to domestic violence, and then if they leave their husband, they face deportation. We had campaigns for children who are not allowed to come and live with their parents in this country for years, 10-20 years. 2 brothers from Bangladesh who first applied when they were 6 and 8 years old, and they were refused because immigration officers didn't believe their relationship. Some 20 years later, took a DNA test, which is a new test. This test has proved their relationship without any doubt. Still, Home Office didn't want to allow them to come into this country because they are now over the age of 18. The reason I think we have been successful is because we do not look at the law as it stands. What we look at is how people suffer under those laws, the injustices under the law, and we talk to ordinary people telling ordinary human story. And the law itself as it stands is so publicly so unjustifiable. Therefore, when Home Office see a lot of people start making noise, a lot of people start knowing about cases, they allow those people to stay in this country. British Immigration Authority thinks any black person marrying a British citizen, they only do it because they want to gain entry into Britain. Therefore, they have introduced the primary purpose rule, which means an immigration officer has to be satisfied that you have not entered into the marriage primarily to enter into United Kingdom and settle here. An immigration officer conduct hours and hours of interview to be satisfied. And not surprisingly, 87% of the marriage cases, immigration officers are never satisfied. And that has given rise to hundreds and thousands of people who are living in this country as a single parent. Their other partner is in the country of their origin.
Since I came here to England, since I came to the airport, they want to send me back on that same date.
About 6 months after my wife had arrived into the country, she received a long letter from the entry clearance officer at the British High Commission in Mauritius. It was a letter to tell her of the decision that had been made on her application. It told her that her application had been refused. They alleged that she had made a statement to the effect that she wouldn't have married me had I been living in Mauritius instead of living in this country. a reason which straight away to me and to my wife, we knew that it was bogus, because I kept asking my wife whether she had made such a statement. She said no, she said that she had not even been asked this question at all. The letter did say that she had made this statement not at interview. So it was a bit more confusing. We thought to ourselves, where could she have made the statement? For the first time, it was clear to us that the Home Office was prepared to go to any length, to even to tell lies, to stop black people coming to this country.
Another category of people is the people who cannot prove they got adequate means to support their fiancés. According to the law, you must have sufficient means to look after your fiancé without recourse to public fund and without recourse to public housing. Currently, we are fighting a campaign for Andy Moore Penton, who applied from Jamaica to come and live with his wife Jennifer in Birmingham. His application was refused on the ground that Jennifer's weekly wages of £135 was not enough to look after Andy Moore, and Jennifer's two-bedroom house did not have enough accommodation for Jennifer and Andy Moore to live.
After receiving the necessary papers from Jennifer, I went to the British High Commission in Jamaica and took all the papers to them, and they said to me that I have to pay $1,200, which is 1,200 Jamaican dollars, before I can get an interview. So I paid the 1,200 Jamaican dollars and I did a first interview, bring all my letters and marriage certificate, and she interviewed me and said to me that I must come back for a re-interview on the 5th of July. So when I went back for the interview on the 5th of July now, she said to me that I need a bank statement. I sent to Jennifer for the bank statement and go back to the British High Commission, and she took my passport and said to me that I must have a seat. So I went and have a seat now, and then it took about an hour before this male officer come to me and said to me that, oh, he's sorry because the entry clearance was turned down.
To come into United Kingdom, to stay here permanently, you have to first of all make an application into the British Embassy in your country of origin, and then you will be put in a waiting list. This waiting list sometimes lasts between 6 months to 2 years. At the end of the waiting period, you will be interviewed. It will be a thorough interview to test your means and primary purpose. And then if you are refused entry clearance, then you will appeal against it. An appeal will be heard somewhere in England. From the date of the refusal and the date appeal is heard, it is a period of 12 to 18 months. And if you succeed in your appeal, then you will be given a visa from your country of origin. For a successful application, it takes from the beginning to the end anything between 12 months to 4 years. Every application for entry clearance costs you between 60 to 80 pounds. That's the application fees. And also you include your traveling cost from your home to the nearest British Embassy and going forward and backwards. And if your application has been refused in the first instance, you also have to include the cost of your appeal, which can run into a couple of £1,000. Having gained all the papers correctly, you arrived at Heathrow Airport or Gatwick Airport. Then you face with a second round of interview by immigration officers who are based in this country. They will go through long waiting period in a small room in Heathrow Airport without any food and drink for hours, long interview sessions, and sometimes they will fingerprint you and strip search you. And even if you are successful at the end of that period, occasionally you are only allowed out on a temporary basis for a week, sometime couple of days only. And you will be subject to another series of interview at the end of that temporary admission.
After a further half an hour or so, they came to tell me, we are refusing your wife entry into this country. They took her away into a room on her own and made her wait there nearly a further couple of hours without telling her anything and without telling me anything. In the end, the same immigration officer walked out and he kept telling me, look, here's the way out, you go, you've got no problem whatsoever, you're a British citizen, it's your wife who's got the problem, she's got to stay here. He couldn't understand that my wife was my problem, was my responsibility, was everything to do with me. His final decision was to allow my wife into the country on a temporary admission for 2 days, giving me a long sheet of paper asking me to bring her back to the airport 2 days afterwards to be put on a plane and sent back to Mauritius.
The plane landed about 11 o'clock, and during that time they questioned him over and over again. They strip searched him, they told him to bend over, they done all horrible things and was saying that he had drugs links in the country and that's why they couldn't let him through.
The whole process of entering into this country, from the day you make your application in your country of origin and the day you have been interviewed by an immigration officer at Heathrow Airport, is designed to break your confidence, to humiliate you, criminalize you. So even if you successfully enter the country, should anything go wrong, then you don't have any courage to fight against the injustices which is inbuilt into the immigration law of this country. Once you have gone past the means test and you have passed your primary purpose test, then you will be only allowed to come into this country for 12 months. And you will be checked whether you are living with your husband or your wife for 12 months. If you are not living with them, then you will be deported out of the country. Home Office will not look the reason why marriage you are not living with your partner, the reason why marriage has broken down, or under what circumstances you will find yourself if you are deported out of the country. At the moment we are doing a campaign for Sally Ann. She met somebody in Bombay, liked him, got married later on. She left her job, she took all her savings from bank and came to England to make a new life here. She lived with her husband, but a few months later she realized this marriage was not working. She didn't have any choice but to leave the matrimonial home and find shelter within the community. She found herself a job, she found herself a place to live. Home Office is still intending to deport her because she is not living in a matrimonial home where things are not going well.
So I've been asked to just leave. Now if I go back, where do I go? I have no home, I have no family there, I have nobody because I've been living on my own throughout.
My husband is a British citizen and I met him in my country, Mauritius. And he went on holiday and he was looking for a wife. And somebody told him like there's a divorced lady there and you can go and ask. And he came and he asked my parent, my dad, and my dad, he agreed and he did ask me, and then we got married. And he brought me here and my son. The marriage broke down, but it wasn't my fault, no. And the Home Office say like, your marriage broke down, you have to go back. My son, his life is here because he's settled down here, he's at school, he's quite happy, he make lots of friends, and I did make lots of friends, and I've been working for the social services with old people. I enjoy my job, and I don't know why they're telling me to go back.
Number of campaigns we have been involved so far. It's only a very, very small portion of number of people who are being deported out of the country. We're talking about ordinary private people who has not been involved in many activities beyond their family and private life. And suddenly they have to go in front of a big gathering of people, speak there, go and talk to people about their private life, personal pre-document, ask them to write on their behalf to the Home Secretary, go out in demonstrations. And it's a lot of pressure. So a large proportion of our time at the early stage of the campaign is devoted to give people that support, build their courage up, build their morale up, so that they can do a campaign.
The only way we can get the Home Office to overturn their decision is to fight the cases openly, publicly, as opposed to what the Home Office actually wants to. They want to keep the whole issue quiet. They do actually deport 250 black people from the country every month. Most of these people go quietly.
I got involved with the campaign knowing that they would help me. They said they will help me because alone I couldn't do anything for myself. My solicitor, he said, the campaign will help you.
Being faced with deportation is a very dreadful experience, both for yourself, both for your family, and both for your day-to-day living. It places a lot of pressure on people to such an extent that some people may not know what to do, they may not know where to turn, and it's very difficult to take decisions in such a situation.
That is why campaign is so important, because campaign does not only publicly campaign for your case, it also builds in support for you. There's a moral building exercise, there is support network built around individuals. So people are supported all the time, not only at the time of public activities, but also at the time of rest, when you are most vulnerable. We've got campaign people visiting people at home, befriending people, taking people into different places.
I was going to the campaign, and I met her to the campaign, and we talk about each other, about our situation, and we do go every fortnight, Monday we meet, and there's campaign members, lots of people there. They knew we feel very depressed and worried, and they try to encourage and help us and do the publicity like demonstration. Yeah, they organize the demonstration and they ask help and support, public help, support, like leaflet, they do leaflet as well, yeah.
For me, I knew that there was no other way. There was nothing to lose, everything to fight for. I have seen a number of people spend loads of money going through solicitors fighting legal campaigns. And I've seen from a number of replies coming from the Home Office that they just don't listen, they don't pay note to any representation made. For them, rules are rules, nothing else matters. Rules are rules, and they will insist that the rules, they apply the rules fairly to you, to everybody else. While we know for a fact that it's not. It's nothing to do with fairness, nothing to do with justice. It's all to do with a numbers game of keeping black people out of this country or delaying them as far as is possible, for as long as possible. In this fight of a number of years, in a number of cases, we have seen that our most important tool, our most important weapon is actually public support from the community, from people at large, and the only way this support can be channel is open publicity in the media, television, newspapers, radios.
Very important part of our support comes from the community we live in and we work in. Various community organizations, individuals, religious organizations who are there in the community, and also there are organizations who are based nationally. We get support from mosques, gurudwaras, churches. We get support from various members of parliament, local members, and members from other part of the country. We also get support from various trade unionists individually and trade union as an institution.
There will be an open invite to West Midlands Anti-Deportation campaign to speak at the next Trades Council meeting.
Can Vinesh make that meeting? Right. Okay. So if you get ready to go to that meeting, it's in the evening that Thursday. We've arranged for somebody to pick you up. Yeah?
Ever since I came to know about the campaign, I've got a lot of confidence because, first of all, I've come to know a lot of people, and I think the campaign is good because they could fight for me because they know, well, I'm not in the wrong.
I was too frightened to go to the meeting. And then I can't speak in the meeting. I was too frightened and I was too depressed, upset. I can't do nothing. I can't even talk in front of many people. I've been on TV, newspaper. I always frightened. I've been to a rally in Manchester. Even I was 7 months pregnant. I've been to the meeting. I was nearly 9 months of my pregnancy. I still been to the meeting everywhere. During winter, I have to go to the meeting to speak to every people I meet. They all support me.
If you are faced with deportation, first thing, you must never think that you have done anything wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. The law is wrong. The law is racist. The law wants to exclude you. And you are not one in your situation. There are hundreds of other people like you around. And there are hundreds and thousands of people around you who will support you. That is the experience we have got. Talk to other people. There will be people to support you. And stand up. Don't take it without a fight.